Hello, YouTube. Chance Paladin here, and of my co-host Ringo the Cat, and this is the new series that I'm going to be starting. As I talked about in my other video, so I'm not going to rehash any of that. So I'm going to have the game playing in the background. I'm going to talk about it for a while. I'm not going to show the whole game because I'm probably going to upload that in its own video at some point someday as soon as I get the bandwidth. I don't have the bandwidth now, so these are going to have to be a lot shorter. Let's see. I think, oh yeah. So this game is called DreadOut. And I've got kind of a format planned for these, so bear with me here. First I want to start right off and say I've paid for all these games, first of all. Second of all, I've actually bought 2 copies of this game because if I really like a game, I buy it on GOG and Steam. If it's a good price. And yeah, so this is a DreadOut. This is the first in a series. I'll be kind of saying interesting stuff about the game, but I want to give my first impressions too, because my first impressions of this game were very interesting. The intro, like the intro has a very unpolishedness to it. Her artwork, her design is great. It's top tier. For some reason, my brain couldn't really figure out like this super low res, low poly count game. My brain couldn't. Oh, and the menu is a little janky. Actually, the menu is really janky. I do get that sorted though. One second. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. Wow 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 wow. So I was having a hard time understanding, like, so hard to explain. The poly count and like the textures of this area were throwing me for a loop. And I don't think I had like looked yet at what year this game had been made. And so it was starting to remind me of an up-resed 3DS, like quote-unquote new 3DS title. And there's one called, what's it? I always forget the name of it. Silver Falls? Is that what it's called? Yeah, Silver Falls 3 Down Stars, which has this almost exact same, like, really low poly count on the really low res textures, except her character model is like really high textures. It was throwing me for a loop, and I'm like, did they do this on purpose, or is this just like, you know, a two person team or something? But the mechanics are actually like really complicated. They're like deceptively complicated, and my brain was just like, could not process what's happening because it's so jarring. The art direction. Come on, Ringo. Lay down. Lay down, buddy. The art direction and the design were just throwing my brain in two different directions. And so I started and stopped playing this game over and over. I'll say like 3 times. Ringo, lay down, buddy. He's trying to get up into everything. He's really excited. I kept starting and stopping this game over and over and over again. Because I'm like, is this really low effort? Is this like a tech demo? I'm like, is this one of those games that's only like 10 minutes long? Like, how do you say? Like, a college project? Stop it, Ringo. Hey. He's really wound up all of a sudden. He's been sleeping all day, and he's really wound up. And I... Like here, right here, like I'm like, is she broken? Oh, she was gliding, and now she's jogging almost in space. And then I get knocked down for some reason, and it's impossible to tell, like, what's part of the game, what's not part of the game, what's part of the jankiness. Where did she go? Do I go upstairs or downstairs? Like, how do doors work? Is this supposed to be like, oh, and I don't go, in this playthrough, I don't go stare at that car, but that car is like 5 polygons and just like the shittiest sub like PS1 textures. But then I'm like, wow, that cat looks really good. That's your cue, Ringo. And it's like, but the cat doesn't go anywhere. Is the cat supposed to go somewhere? I don't really focus on it because I had already played through this once, and so I knew I played through this part once, and so I'm like, the cat doesn't do anything, okay. But then there's like these bugs, and I'm like, are these bugs supposed to be here? Are these bugs supposed to do something? Where am I supposed to go? But then I'm like, but these windows look really good. But the hair looks like really bad. There's a lot of jump scares in this game. A lot of jump scares and a lot of just creepiness. And then there's this. What the hell is this? Well, this is Limbo. And if you didn't notice before, the screen's changing. The outside, they call it the vignette, which is kind of like a fancy name for an overlay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like a fancy name for an overlay. Oh, man, Ringo wants to go play. Hold on. There's a secret place. Go on. So, I'm like, these windows look really good. And then later on, there's, I don't think in here, but like later on, there's mirrors. And the mirrors just look amazing. They look
You're the only one who can get
perfect.
Out of this place.
It doesn't make any sense.
You have to get out of here. Take this key and leave.
And so,
No.
there's voice acting too. Can't really hear it. I don't know. If I turn it up, then you won't be able to hear me, and vice versa. It's kind of hard. I'm kind of playing around with the idea of if I really want to sit here and jack the audio around to kind of give people that idea. But freaking cat hair in my mouth from Ringo running around. So this is kind of the tutorial part of the game, kind of like learning things in a safe environment, but it really feels like a tech demo. Because of that, you're not really paying attention to a lot of things that you really should be paying attention to. And I've played through this part at least like 3 times. And I missed tons of story elements that you do not pick on because you like cannot get immersed in the game. I couldn't get immersed in the game because it was so jarring. But for some reason, no, Ringo already wants back in again. For some reason, I couldn't stop playing it. Like, I had to know, like, what's going on with this game. Oh, you want? I'm like, what's going on with this game? Like, how deep does this rabbit hole go? You know what I mean? Like, and as soon as I got out of the house, like, I was expecting the game to just end. So I'm like, when's this game? The game is just gonna end, anytime now. And I had to mess with the controls a lot. I eventually got the controls to where they were really, really comfortable and really, really responsive. Wow, wow. And that was a huge part of it. And so I already know what's going to happen here. I usually play through a game once before I record, just so I don't waste a ton of my own time. It actually takes me less time to play through a game twice than it does for me to edit a really bad run through. I learned that the hard way a long time ago. Thanks to doing all those videos for CDK, I learned to just play a game twice. Instead of trying to edit the first playthrough. It makes the playthrough a lot cleaner, and it makes my editing job way easier. So, anyway. And I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't have known what is about to happen to me right here. Which is you can get stuck here for a very long time if these bastards, there's 2 of them, they come up to you on both sides. Where's the other one at? There he is. See, I couldn't even see him, and I knew he was going to be there, and I was looking right at him, and I was looking right for him, couldn't see him. And they're swinging a scythe around, and it's a kind of a sweeping, cleaving hitbox, and for 1, that's not a big deal. For 2, they can stun lock you. You get sent to limbo and you get back, and they just can stun lock you forever. It's very frustrating in the way saves work. You do not want to get stuck in this game. And there's 2 places, well, actually there's at least 3 places where you can get stuck like that in the game. So I had to be very careful. I had to be very careful to not get stun locked by these guys, because this is one of the... Well, not one of. This is the only game I've played in my, I think, entire adult life that's made me want to, like, throw the controller levels of mad. Because of just kind of, it lacks a little bit of polish. But there's a couple of reasons for that. I probably, like, haven't really... Well, I can't say that this is like a small team, because I've seen the end credits, and the end credits are like 7 minutes of like staff and QA and helpers and stuff. They had a good team. Oh, this puzzle right here, you have to light the 3 candles, and 2 of the 3 candles were from fighting those 2 guys. 1 candle was already lit. And I couldn't exactly remember where to stand. Plus it's just kind of fun to try to solve the puzzles different ways, to see if they could be solved different ways. This big thing falls on you, and a big spooky eyeball opens. Another important plot element for later that you completely forget about. Yeah, that first area probably has 4 or 5 really important plot elements, but you're kind of learning the game, and so you don't think about it. So this game definitely has some replayability. So it's not a huge team that made this, but it's a fairly decent team. I don't know if it's their first game or not, but I was thinking, okay, the game's probably over, right? This is just some kind of tech demo. People were talking it up, and it's made some lists, and the YouTubers, the stupid overreacting YouTubers, Twitch streamers, a couple of them have played this game. Not a lot though, but a couple, And then I'm like, wait, this video looks really good. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's the end of the game. This is just a tech demo, and that's the end of the game. I'm like, how does this car look so good? How does this cutscene look so good? I'm like, is this like the in-game engine? And I'm like, what was the deal with that? Like low poly car at the beginning. It only showed it for a second here, but it's like seriously like a 5 polygon freaking car in the beginning that's like in that house. I'm like, wait, this is all in-engine. And that van looks great. And I'm like, that's pretty far draw distance. I'm like, what just happened? Was that like a tech demo? And then they built the rest of the game around it or something? I was very confused. I thought maybe that's the end of the game. I'm like, oh, haha, the joke's on me. And then I just started like, wait, what's going on here? This is all fully voice acted. The music starts getting like better and better and better. You start like really liking all the little blips and bleeps and tunes and their facial. They all have unique facial expressions. They all have unique postures and little actions they're doing. I'm like, what is this? And so I kept expecting the game to like fall apart. I'm looking around. I've actually already played this segment, I think twice at this point. But that sort of just gave me more sort of like liberty to enjoy myself more because I wasn't so damn confused. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go exploring more. Like, what else is there? Like, what else is going on in this game? What else is going on? And I'm starting to see, like, this game deceptively is not what I thought it was. There's a lot to this game. And it was just flooring me. So I'm like, maybe if I explore more, maybe there's more things to do. Maybe this is just like way deeper than I thought. So while I kind of get my bearings here, while my character gets their bearings, I want to read off a little bit about the game. I get a lot of my info from howlongtobeat.com. DreadOut.com. I really like that. It's not perfect, but it has a lot of good info. The developer is Digital Happiness, and it released around May 2014.
Still, where exactly are we?
And
Dad,
the main story takes roughly 3.5 hours. I would say give or take, depending on how hard of a time you get immersed. Once you learn everything that you need to do, it probably does take more than 5 hours. I would say 8 is like pushing it a little bit. There's definitely 3.5 to 4 hours of gameplay here. If you don't read the tutorial, or if you don't read playthroughs. Not that there are very many for this game. This game's short enough to where there's almost no playthroughs for it. Okay, so let's see. Digital Happiness. Do they have an about section or... Indonesia. That's right, that's what I was looking for. Bandung, West Java, Indonesia. They were established around 2013 in Bandung. The first Indonesian video game developer that succeeded in an international crowdfunding campaign. Their first IP, DreadOut, became the first Indonesian horror video game, surpassing 1 million downloads across all platforms. That's insane. And I didn't know that. I didn't know any of this. I'd never heard of this game because, unfortunately, like, I think that I was hung up on like Resident Evil for so long that I really didn't really think I needed to play any other kind of survival-y, horror-y type games. I wanted to play Fatal Frame and Silent Hill for a long time, but by the time I was kind of like emotionally available for something outside of Resident Evil, I don't really consider Silent Hill and Fatal Frame very accessible by the modern on modern systems. I just don't. Like, unfortunately, they really didn't really carry those forward. Either of those franchises. And I never owned a PlayStation or a Vita, or what was the other one called? PSP, and I don't know if maybe that's what a lot of the Fatal Frames were on, but most of those didn't come out for Nintendo and Xbox 360. So some sort of, maybe some spin-offs maybe came out for the Wii. I can't really remember. They were expensive as all get out, and so yeah, I missed that boat, but I was like emotionally available for it saves like some of your pictures to like kind of a fake SD card, and then you can save them to the cloud and share them with people. It's actually a really smart idea. So what was I gonna say? So I didn't know about any of these games because at the time I wasn't really looking for anything else. Like, if you didn't get into like a giant chunk of the Resident Evil franchise and you're getting into it now, there's years of content for you to go through, even just like with like the main numbered series. Not even getting into the remakes. Even if you stop at 6 and just do like Revelations 1 and 2, you know, 0 through 6, Revelations 1 and 2, and, you know, ORC, Code Veronica, that'll keep you busy for years. So, I mean, and most of those are still, you know, pretty accessible. And then the remakes started coming out, and those were, like, pretty accessible. So I didn't really need to get into anything else. So I wasn't really looking for anything else. Part of it. Another part is I was really turned off by just the massive overreaction, screaming millennial culture. There's the fake overreacting really turned me off, and so I was just never looking for anything. And waiting for Fatal Frame and Silent Hill to, you know, start making their games accessible, and I was ready. So I started looking around for kind of like, you know, top 5, top 10 games to try if you're trying to get, you know, your old Resident Evil, Fatal Frame, and Silent Hill fix. And this was one of the games that popped up on the list. And I'm so glad it did, because out of all the ones I've been trying, I had to wait for them all to be on sale, which, you know, took until Halloween. I had to wait for them all to be on sale, but I'm just so happy. I came back to this one like 2 or 3 times. I was completely shocked that she had different little costumes that she could wear. There's just, I'm like, this game must be way bigger than I thought. And so I kept going forward, and I kept wondering, like, I'm like, this game's just going to shut off at some point, you know? Okay, so you can see sort of the blue, you know, vignette around the sides there. So that's when I knew I was near something. There's a lot of graphical glitches, so you can see it flickering around. I keep thinking those were like ghosts, but they're not ghosts. Those are just graphical glitches. It's kind of funny. Lots of locked doors, and there's no way to get in them. There's nothing in them. But every once in a while there is. And so, up until now, the game's been pretty claustrophobic. But this gal's following you around. That's another narrative thing that should have been more obvious. But now you're so enamored with exploring and how big the game is that you're still not paying attention to the narrative elements of the game. And because now you're just like, man, this whole place is freaking awesome. Trying to promote my new book at the same time, so bear with me here. Today's sponsor is Chance Paladin's Bunker book, available now on Amazon for all you newbie preppers out there. So this is where the game gets really big, and then it gets really small again. This is a deceptively big game with a deceptive amount of content. And how the game manages to accomplish that is it's still kind of a little bit long. And she says shit like your shoes are untied. And I'm like, is this game fucking with me? There's like little points in time where this game starts to be really self-aware. And I'm like, is it trying to tell me something? Because earlier she's like, hey, take my picture over here. And I'm like, wait, what? So there's a bunch of secrets here, but they're kind of hard to get. I didn't even know about them until later. There's also multiple endings, multiple secret bosses, and there's a spot of dialogue in the middle that I won't spoil that has tons of different things that can... tons of different outcomes and cutscenes based on this one string of dialogue that I had no idea. It is like, wow, these guys. So there's a school up ahead, and if you're really bad at figuring things out, like I am, you're going to be stuck in that school for like 3 hours. So I hope you get used to it. In this video, I cut probably a good hour and 20 minutes of me wandering around. So yes, there's some graphical glitches. Yes, there's a couple spots you can get stuck. I never got soft locked. I almost did, but eventually either the characters that were stun locking me would reset, or I would kind of restart it and it would like fix the triggers. So those guys that I was talking about at the beginning, the two guys with the scythes, those guys stun locked me the first time. I kind of entered and exited the game a few times. And then it kind of set them back to their corners.
Doesn't that seat look exactly
so
like
I
the one we
could
used to hang out on in elementary school?
get kind of reacclimated, because it takes you a second to point your phone. And so a lot of them can attack faster than you can point your phone. So
you still remember, don't you?
Oh, I see.
a surprising bit of dialogue here where it kind of shows that
Check out the inside. Wanna come?
all these characters actually have like
Okay, you're lost.
lives and personalities
Hey, where are
and
you guys running off to?
histories together.
You two stay here,
And
okay?
Where are we
Hey,
going
be
now?
careful.
it's these like rare moments where it's not like
So
horror all
need
the
a
time. Like your
massage.
characters are redeemable. They're not just all
Yeah.
morons or
I
assholes.
remember the weather was cloudy, just like this.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh
Alright,
man,
never
I
showed up.
actually really want
We
everything to
clicked
turn
right
out
away,
okay.
didn't we? We clicked
You're
right
like,
away,
wait,
didn't we?
am I starting to get
Do
attached
you
to these
remember when we
people?
used to be in
Am I
Girl
starting
Scouts
to get
together?
attached to these characters now?
Oh, who was that one teacher? He disguised himself as a pochon.
And I think that's pretty funny.
So freaked
I-
out. But you weren't even phased.
I was like surprised
And you threw a
over and
rock at
over and
him.
over and over
No. It
by
was
this
more like
game.
the size of a
And by
boulder.
now, I was hooked.
Come to think of it, you were always kind of like my personal
And,
bodyguard.
so yeah, let me
Free,
think.
though. Right, sis?
Inside the school, with the hair growing out of it,
I haven't called you sis in a long time.
it is a huge school. 2 floors, wings going out both directions, no map. Huge
They've been
school.
in there for a really long time. We should probably
Look,
go
they
check
even
on
had her hair move. and like change styles. I'm like, how the hell did they do that in 2014? I'm like, what is this? What is this? Anyway, this is when the darkness really comes into play, because it's at night and you're in a school and it is dark as hell. Get used to the darkness. It's gonna be dark for a good chunk of the game.
What's wrong, Lynn?
Now, the whole secret diddly-do here is that you can actually leave and go back into the town. And there's at least 2 more boss fights.
It was like some kind of crazy museum tour or something.
And
What the? It's already dark out? How long
you
will
can't do it
really
now,
is
but I
getting
could have
late.
done it then. I could have just turned around and left.
Kids, gather round. It's time to
2
head
more
back.
boss fights, which is insane that they would have, in a good way,
Where's Yaya?
that they would have like gated that off and just let you skip that. It's pretty ballsy.
Did he run off to now?
Leads to some really cool, more replayability. Not forcing you to do a bunch of extra boss battles if you want to just get directly into the school and start adventuring, because it is massive and there's a lot of stuff to do in there. Tons and tons and tons and tons of spooky stuff. And I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna cut it.
Yayan!
Yayan!
Ringo,
Yayan!
come on, buddy.
Try calling his phone.
I'm trying to right now, Miss Siska.
Because I've already been talking between the little intro that I did, that I just uploaded, and this. I've been talking for like a straight hour, and y'all know me from my other channel. You know how thrashed my voice gets if I don't rest, and I didn't want to rest and pause this every 10 minutes. So suffice it to say, they split up, because splitting up is the way to go. And one by one, they split up and start having problems, and some of them, well, less and less of them keep coming back. And I'm like, don't be afraid to open doors. I'm like, what is this game? Don't be afraid to open doors. Like, is that going to come into play later? And then there's a later part of the game where, yeah, see, you can't get out now because it's locked. I could have got out earlier. I didn't know that, though. Anyway, there's a part of the game that's just a hallway full of doors that you can't open. And I'm like, oh, why did it say don't be afraid to open doors? And then it ironically has this hallway that you can't open any of the doors. So the what to do is kind of what gives you your clues in case you pause the game or get stuck, or take a break from the game and get stuck. So here's kind of the first hallway, and in proper fashion, like the further you go, the more kind of little shortcuts you open for yourself. So the backtracking isn't a pain. She gets spooky phone calls. Very spooky phone calls. And the game just gets spookier and spookier, and the mechanics. What else I want to say about this? The mechanics are surprisingly utilized to like every conceivable way. You might think, oh, okay, so the phone's just a stand-in for a gun. Got it. And that was one of the reasons why I was honestly at one point I think too scared to play Fatal. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Well, I'm an idiot. Oh, fuck, run. It just occurred to me that the pig was sleeping. Which is something that comes into play later. It's kind of hard to see, but he had keys around. He has keys around his neck. Assuming that's a boy pig. He runs away. Wee 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 wee. Wee wee wee. Well, he has keys around his neck. I didn't realize that. It doesn't matter because you can't get the keys around his neck anyway. Now, this doesn't have tons of like bullshit MacGuffin items that you have to grab, like the Resident Evil and all of its clones do, where they just artificially bloat the game by requiring, or well, even a lot of those point and clicks, where they just artificially spooky. So that was one of the times where I actually did legitimately jump, because that thing, that spooky mask, flies right at your face and goes right through you. And it does it for quite a while. And he is very, very fast. He doesn't hurt you, because not everything in this game hurts you. Some of it's just spooky. Of course, bathrooms are just the worst for me. I already have a bathroom phobia. And there's actually an Easter egg later on in one of the bathrooms, but I wasn't going to screw around with it. I think I have the I don't know how far I'll have the volume turned down, but you can hear the pig as you get closer, and it is very, very loud. Pig breathing. Oh, there's a spooky. Oh, see that right there? That scared the shit. And then I turn around, the fucking pig is there, and I'm like, ah, gosh darn it. I'm like, what is this game? What is this? What is this? And that pig is actually pretty fast. And you have you have an invisible stamina bar, so she can't run forever. And there's a lot of bullshit MacGuffins to get, but you do have to get the keyring off the pig. To get the keyring off the pig, you have to get the scissors. But you can't get the scissors without finding a key to get to where the scissors are. You don't really know where the key is until you solve a perspective puzzle. After doing it the first time, it seems really stupidly obvious. And then you get the key to the pigs, and get the pigs, you unlock the front door. I think you unlock the front door. And then you could theoretically leave, but something else happens. Oh, yeah, I'm ambushed by the fucking giant pig. Because the pig goes bee wee 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 wee, and he runs away. But then as soon as you go away, he's not scared anymore. Then he comes to terrorize you again. And you might think, oh, you can just wait in there or whatever. But he waits for you, so you can't. You have to kind of scare him away every time. You can't just like wait for him to pass. Because if you do, he'll be on the other side of you. But he's really good at sniffing you out and finding you, so I don't think he'll even get past you. Unless maybe you start taking shortcuts, but that's bad because if you take pictures of him, he hides over in that corner in the wall. Behind that. There's lots of interesting knickknacks to go find. So I especially liked this game because there wasn't a bunch of bullshit I had to go collect other crap to collect, to just force me to, yeah, so you start unlocking shortcuts, which since I have no situational awareness whatsoever, it doesn't help me at all, but it's nice. I like not having to collect tons of crap. That was one of my big turnoffs with Resident Evil 2. Oh, look at those amazing windows. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Everyone thought, oh, you know, it's returning to the way things are. It's like, between all the bullshit that you have to unlock and all the different keys, there's like 50, 60. It just kills the immersion of the game. And it's just masking the fact that it's about a 50-minute game. There's it's like almost no content. They cut so much of the content that... Oh, there he is. See, he sniffed me out. But demon pig couldn't get in there, so... what else? Tons and tons of boss battles. But they never feel stale. One of the kind of boss battle puzzles broke. And I got really, really, really upset and frustrated. And then I just kind of had a sneaking suspicion that it broke. So I shut it off, turned it back on, and then it instantly worked. And so it looks like the video's edited, but it's really not. I turned the game off and back on, and it instantly worked. Which I was super happy about. Excuse me. Each room looks different. I only had a problem with one thing in this game, which was finding the key. There's no walkthroughs that describe where it is. And for some weird reason, there's no little, like, blue vignette when I got close to it. Like there's with everything else in the game. So I thought for sure I was in the wrong spot. And you can't even see it. It seems to be invisible. Whereas I could see everything else. And so I only had one kind of game-breaking glitch, which a restart helped. And I only had problem with one puzzle. And I was able to solve every boss battle myself. Except, unfortunately, there's a couple boss battles that you can't win. And I don't like that because that is super confusing if they have boss battles. Oh yeah, this is a super, super creepy boss here. So I have to wait for the sparkles. Or I have to wait for the glitch. And so now it's red. And it's red, which means there's a boss. It's fizzy, which means I can attack. It's red, which means the boss is there. But it also means that I could be taking damage. And then I'm like, what the hell is in there? I'm like, what is that? And then it disappears. And then boom. That freaked me out too. I'm like, did it do it? And then I'm like, what the hell? How is she back there? And then I realize she can teleport. And then I realized that she's got a big wound on her back. And I'm like, holy crap, they really, really, really thought, oh, she teleported again and she's gonna get me again. But then she teleports and I'm like, what? And then she gets me again because she was behind me. And I'm like, son of a bitch. There she is. I'm like, is she invisible? Sometimes they can turn invisible. That causes all kinds of problems. Actually, quite a few times they can turn invisible. And I'm like, I have to deal with that gash on her back. And then she teleports again. I'm like, gosh darn it, she teleported again. And then I'm like, why is she not dying? And quite a few times I knew what to do. I just kind of didn't know how I was gonna do it because trying to get these ghosts to behave is she fucking teleported again. And then she got me. Trying to get the ghosts to behave is very hard. They have very, very erratic patterns. And so I'm like, okay, she must be teleporting around me. I'm like, there she is. But I'm like, how do I get her? How do I get her to turn around? Because I'm like, if attacking her from the front doesn't work, I must have to get around her somehow. But I'm like, this isn't stunning her for very long. And you can't tell, like, I was trying to count, like, how many times I have to hit him before she teleports behind me. Or sometimes she teleports in front of me. You know, they don't have a health bar, so you don't know, like, am I actually damaging them? Or am I supposed to stun them and do something? So kind of each one of these is like, or I'm like, or can you not kill them at all? And it's just like trial and error. But then it looks like I edited that, but I didn't. I ran past her, she teleported through me, and I ran through her. And then I got her in the back. So the game auto saves. Oh, I only lost my I only lost where I was in the game one time, and it's because Steam shut down, which shut my game down, because that's again one of the reasons why I hate Steam, is if you don't have internet, you can't play your game. People say that's not true, but it is. Kitty, kitty, kitty. I'm like, why is that cat through the whole game? Is that important? Because that cat's through the whole game. No idea why. So more story hints that I'm just like completely oblivious to. This game has an actual story. I was just like completely immersed in the adventure. But there's a really good story behind it too. I can't think of what else I was gonna say. Leave a thumbs up and a comment or something if you like this. There's a couple more. There's a couple more I'm for sure going to do. Here's kind of one of the first perspective puzzles that gives you a clue as to where the key is. What was I gonna say? There's a couple more I'm for sure gonna do. One of them I'm waiting for it to get patched. Some of them you can't just look through it for the puzzle to work. So you have to actually take the picture for the puzzle to work. And then all of a sudden, boop, you get like a teaser picture. And sometimes it saves the picture and sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it saves the picture. Doesn't do a very good job of telling you where the key is, though, because the key... Yeah, I explained that already. Anywho, also what kind of F's it up is it shows the wrong number of girls that got hung, which is also another really confusing. I don't know if it's a plot hole or if they just kind of misjudged things. But anyway, I'm gonna cut it here. And someday when I get enough bandwidth, I'll upload the whole game with the volume turned to max. But I'm gonna do this to save bandwidth. And check this game out, DreadOut. There's kind of an expansion pack to this one. That's another like 4 or 5 hours of content. And there's a sequel. So I've played some of the expansion. I don't know. It's definitely fun. I don't know if I'm going to record it or not. I'm really looking forward to DreadOut 2. But DreadOut 2 is another massive, massive download. And I'm bandwidth throttled. I'm in bandwidth jail. So, anyway. Thanks for watching. I'm going to stop rambling. And, y'all take care. And if you like horror games, if you like Fatal Frame, this is a very, very, very fun small developer game. Highly recommend it. The second one looks awesome. And talk to y'all later, and buy my books. Bye. Meow meow. Meow meow.